A lot of times movements burn out by focusing exclusively on how far we have to go without celebrating the small victories that happen along the way. For instance, even amid the GOP's massive anti-trans ad campaign, on Tuesday, Delaware elected the country's first openly trans member of Congress. And around the country, at least 35 trans and otherwise gender-expansive candidates won races in places like Montana, Hawaii, and Kentucky, where Emma Curtis was elected to the Lexington City Council. And that is a big deal.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So it appears that our representatives in Congress are now being given the opportunity to walk the walk and talk the talk. It's very rare that we get to witness how they handle things that happen to everyday regular people on a day-to-day basis. So Sarah McBride is the first openly transgender person elected to Congress. Sarah is a Delaware senator and has been a member since 2021. Before becoming a representative, McBride worked for the Human Rights Campaign and was a trans activist. I was very much involved in rights pertaining to LGBTQ people. So McBride won the election for Delaware's at-large congressional district. So Sarah McBride has an office at the Capitol, and the big question is, which restroom is Sarah going to use? Well, Nancy Mace and other Republican representatives such as Marjorie Taylor Greene have made it clear that they don't want Sarah using the women's restroom. And Nancy Mace has introduced a bill that bans trans-identified males using the women's restroom on Capitol Hill. And Mace was asked, was this bill introduced with McBride in mind? And she didn't mince her words.
And Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace has introduced a bill in the House that would ban transgender women from using women's restrooms at the Capitol. Earlier, she was asked whether it's a response to the first ever trans representative elected to Congress. Here's her response.
Yes, and absolutely, and then some. I'm not going to stand for a man, if someone with a penis is in the women's locker room.
So, Jay, what are other Republicans saying about this bill, and is it likely to become law?
Well, the speaker was just asked about this as well, and it's unclear if this would be maybe folded in to the broader House rules package or if Nancy Mace would still put this up on the floor for a vote. It specifically refers to bathrooms in the Capitol, in the United States Capitol.
So Nancy Mace pointed out that single-sex spaces are essential for the protection of women, some of whom have experienced SA, something that she herself has been through. Many women will perceive a male entering into their bathroom as a threat. It's also something that is very triggering. We don't know what past traumas certain women have been through. And Nancy has made it clear that she and other women for whom she speaks do not consent to males being in their bathroom. And of course, we're not sitting here debating whether women can go into men's bathrooms. It's always the women, the females, who have to acquiesce to these demands.
So if that being a feminist makes me an extremist, I'm totally here for it.
Is this effort in response to Congresswoman McBride's coming to Congress?
Yes, and absolutely, and then some. I'm not going to stand for a man, if someone with a penis is in the women's locker room, that's not okay. And I'm a victim of abuse myself. I'm a rape survivor. I have PTSD from the abuse I've suffered at the hands of a man. And I know how vulnerable women and girls are in private spaces. So I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms. I will be there fighting you every step of the way.
A resolution calls for the prohibition on House members and employees using restrooms, changing rooms or locker rooms other than those corresponding to the biological sex of such individuals in the Capitol or in House office buildings. The House Sergeant at Arms would have to enforce the new measure, which Mace said she received assurances from House Speaker Mike Johnson would be tucked into a rules package that will be voted on early next year. So Speaker Mike Johnson initially refused to answer the question of whether he considers McBride to be a man or woman.
Is freshman-elect Sarah McBride a man or a woman?
Look, I'm not going to get into this. We welcome all new members with open arms who are duly elected representatives of the people. I believe it's a command that we treat all persons with dignity and respect. We will. And I'm not going to engage in silly debates about this. There's a concern about the uses of restroom facilities and locker rooms and all that. This is an issue that Congress has never had to address before. We're going to do that in a deliberate fashion with member consensus on it, and we will accommodate the needs of every single person. That's all I'm saying about that.
So he points out that this is unprecedented. This is something they've had to deal with, something new that has been sprung upon them since the election. So he goes on to clarify his statement, and he makes it clear that in no uncertain terms, you are either male or female. And this is not something that you should even have to say on the steps of the Capitol. This is not something that the Speaker of the House or the leader of the free world should even have to say.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
And yes, those are indeed facts. So Sarah McBride has responded to all the controversy, and this is what McBride had to say. Every day, Americans go to work with people who have life journeys different than their own and engage with them respectfully. I hope members of Congress can muster that same kindness. This is a blatant attempt from far-right extremists to distract from the fact that they have no real solutions to what Americans are facing. We should be focused on bringing down the cost of housing, healthcare, and childcare, not manufacturing culture wars. The Lowerians sent me here to make the American dream more affordable and accessible, and that's what I'm focused on. First comment said, America was much more affordable when Trump was POTUS. It was far-left ideas of Democrats that made life expensive for Americans. That's why this election, Americans voted for Republicans. Sarah McBride is the one being a distraction here by wrongly using women's bathrooms. Not a far-right extremist here. Lifelong Democrat who wants to protect female spaces for females. Everyone knows you're trans, including the men in the building, who should have no problem sharing the men's room with you. Hashtag respect women. It's not far-right extremism. You are not a woman. You were voted in by an overwhelming majority because you are focused on the right things. Don't let the hate from those seeking to divide us distract you from that mission. You've got this. Why do you want to go into the women's restroom when you've been told repeatedly that it makes many women uncomfortable? Wow. And we had people commenting saying that they used to be Democrats. And this was the topic that pushed them over the edge. First of all, don't let anybody tell you that you're weird and over-fixated on an issue that supposedly isn't an issue. This is the sort of thing they're coming out with now. Why are you so obsessed with which bathroom people use? Why are you fixated on bathrooms, on where people pee? This is the sort of mocking that people experience when they talk about how important this issue is to them. Most people in this country are concerned about their daughters being in the bathroom with men. Most people are concerned about their daughters having to compete against boys in sports. And when Democrats deny the concerns of the American people, all they're doing is showing exactly why they lost. Parents are concerned about this issue. Women and girls are concerned about this issue. People with nieces, granddaughters, great-granddaughters, people with friends who have daughters, who they care very much about, are concerned about this issue. And don't let anybody tell you that there's something wrong with you because you care about women and girls. And yes, there are other issues that people are concerned about, such as the economy, such as the soft on crime policies, such as the open borders, all of which affect women too.
In case you haven't heard, the Trump administration is planning to declare a national emergency and use the military to implement a mass deportation program, and I can hear the cries already. Just know that I don't care. Because again, this is exactly what I voted for. We're literally dealing with a humanitarian crisis. You want to talk about women's rights? All right, let's talk about them. All of them. Like the rights that American women have to feel safe in their communities, to not have their future stolen from them by someone who shouldn't have been here in the first place. Did you know Laken Riley fought for her life for 17 minutes? Tell me again how I didn't vote for women's rights. Oh, wait, hi, Ted. Just not the supposed rights that you were thinking of. Enforcing and securing our nation's sovereignty is pro-woman. Every single woman in this country deserves the right to walk down the street without worrying that someone here illegally is lurking around the corner. We already have criminals to deal with on our own. We don't need other countries sending us theirs, too. If the left actually cared about women's rights, they would lock arms with us and ensure that no illegal immigrant with a violent history steps foot in this country, but they don't. We have laws, we have a system. It doesn't mean it's perfect, and of course we could always improve it, but you lock your doors at night to protect the people inside, the same goes for our country. If people want to come here, they have to do it the right way, and if they can't or won't, deport them all.
People have lost their lives senselessly. Women have lost their lives senselessly due to reckless open border policies and reckless decisions to get rid of all of the protections at the border and soft on crime policies. And someone asked a good question. Why does this person want to go into the women's restroom knowing full well that the women are uncomfortable? They're uncomfortable because you're male, and you're always going to be male, no matter how you dress, no matter how you identify, no matter what your name is. So why would you want to go in the women's restroom despite that? How are the women supposed to respond to that? More than likely, they're going to perceive it as a threat. So Marjorie Taylor Greene was cornered by members of the press who were quoting something they saw on social media, saying it was reported, basically trying to deflect and make her out to be the dangerous one, make her out to be the threat. But she brought it back to the real issues that are of concern. Contrary to what these woke journalists and propagandists like to portray, it's the women who are vulnerable.
But they're sick of the trans ideology being shoved down our throats, and it's an attack on women and children all over the country. I don't think Nancy Mace's resolution does enough. I think we need to do more. That's what I asked Speaker Johnson, and he committed to me in the conference that Sarah McBride will not be using our restroom.
It's been reported that you said you'd get into a physical altercation with a biological male if you saw them in the bathroom. Would you get into a physical altercation with?
How is that reported? How is that reported?
It's been,
how is that reported?
It's been on social media that was.
So how is that reported?
I'm just wondering if you would get into a physical altercation with.
I shouldn't have to, but I shouldn't have to do that. No woman should have to. But look at what men have been doing to women. Look at all the female athletes that have had to compete against men. You know, there's a volleyball player that has brain damage today because of a biological male spiking a ball into her head. Should any woman have to endure that? So if you're going to ask stupid questions like that, don't advocate for mentally ill men pretending to be women invading our spaces. You're a woman yourself, and you shouldn't accept predators in your bathrooms.
Do you think Congresswoman McBride is mentally ill?
Yes, he's mentally ill. He's a biological man pretending to be a woman. That's a mental illness. There's something wrong with him.
Did you say that you get into a physical altercation?
Where is that being reported? I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to. It's pretty aggressive for biological men to be invading our spaces. We're women. Why do we have men coming in our spaces? So if he is aggressively coming in our bathrooms, then we should be able to defend ourselves. And the men in our conference, the men in leadership should be defending us too. America has spoken. Look, here's the issue. For all of you in the press, you need to understand this. America's fed up with the trans ideology being shoved into our face. Men are not women. They cannot have periods. They cannot have babies. And they should not compete against women in sports. And they don't belong in our women's bathrooms, our private places, our prisons.
Absolute facts. Now, I know Marjorie Taylor Greene is not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but she spoke absolute facts and she stuck to the point, despite them trying to deflect. They were trying to trap her as the one coming across as the threatening one. She threatened violence against a vulnerable male. That would have been the headline tomorrow if she had taken the bait. They always flip it around on the woman. It's the woman who's the bully. It's the woman who's the threatening one. It's the woman who was guilty of harassment, simply for objecting. When is it okay to ignore somebody's lack of consent? If there are alternatives, such as single-sex bathrooms, unisex bathrooms, why not use those alternatives? I don't know how the Capitol is laid out, but from experience, they never want to. They never want to use the alternatives that are available. It's only the women's bathroom that will validate them, that will validate their gender identity. We all have to bow to gender identity while the rights of others are trampled upon. And the feelings and the wishes of others don't seem to matter. And I agree with Mike Johnson. Everybody in this situation should be treated with dignity and respect. And you could do that while still acknowledging biology. So we have the Obama impersonator saying that this is bullying. When a woman objects to a male being in her bathroom, she is a bully.
All right, a new survey telling us what we kind of already know, the moronic woke terms that the left-wing loons have force-fed us for years, especially our kids in schools and colleges. They're not popular. People don't want to use them. But confirming that House Democrats have learned nothing after getting shellacked in November 5th election, they're going full steam ahead for biological men to use women's restrooms. But Congresswoman Nancy Mace is trying to put a stop to it. She introduced a new resolution requiring members and staffers to use the bathroom that corresponds with his or her biological sex. I can't believe this even has to be a thing. But the move comes as the first trans member of Congress, Sarah McBride, is set to take office.
Bullying a member of Congress. This is what we're doing? This is the lesson that you've drawn from the election in November? This is your priority, that you want to bully a member of Congress as opposed to welcoming her to join this body?
Of course, as always, legacy media helps Democrats frame the issue as the nice people versus the mean people.
Speaker Johnson has said he wants to treat every new member with the words dignity and respect. Forcing this congressperson to go into a male restroom, is that dignity and respect?
Forcing women to share private spaces with men is not dignity and not respect.
And joining me now, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Congresswoman, great to see you. So as far as dignity and respect go, I'm wondering, Congresswoman, how have you been treated after introducing this resolution?
A very interesting question. So the height of hypocrisy, the height of gaslighting, they are threatening to kill me now because I, as a woman, am standing up to protect other women from men being in our private spaces, our restrooms, bathrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms, you name it. And so now they're threatening to kill me over this. I'm being bullied online. But what they forget is that, Laura, I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I will not be bullied into silence. I will not back down. And in fact, I'm going to double down on this. And I'm going to file even more legislation to protect women beyond the Capitol, across every state in the nation. Because the simple question is, do women have rights or not? It's a very simple question.
What about the threats and the bullying towards the women? Those always seem to be discounted in situations like this. So Nancy said, "To everyone threatening my life, your intimidation won't stop me from standing up for women. Maybe channel those big feelings and loud opinions into finding the right restroom." So when it became apparent that Speaker Johnson was going to back the women, there were some instigators. So it was reported that Speaker Johnson issued the following statement regarding the use of single-sex facilities throughout the US Capitol complex. All single-sex facilities in the Capitol and House office buildings, such as restrooms, changing rooms and locker rooms, are reserved for individuals of that biological sex. It is important to note that each member office has its own private restroom, and unisex restrooms are available throughout the Capitol. Women deserve women-only spaces. Well, there you go. This shouldn't even be discussed. There are unisex bathrooms, as I suspected. End of story. But of course, we hear from the instigators. Before we come to a resolution, there has to be people who stir the pot. So we had Rep Zoe Zephyr, a state representative out of Missoula, Montana. I'm really shocked by Montana, I'm not going to lie. I'm really shocked by Montana. So Rep Zoe said the following: "I literally just got out of meetings with members of Congress and used the bathroom on my way out. Trans women are women, full stop. We're every bit as biologically female as cis women. And Speaker Johnson's statement doesn't change the fact that women's spaces include trans women." Somebody who is male, who claims to be just as biologically female as females. That doesn't make any sense. So this is a state representative Somebody who doesn't even know whether they're male or female. So yes, Nancy Mace needs to push through with this bill to keep the likes of this person out. So while I was editing, Sarah McBride came up with the following statement. I'm not here to fight about bathrooms. I'm here to fight for Delawareans and to bring down costs facing families. Like all members, I will follow the rules as outlined by Speaker Johnson, even if I disagree with them. This effort to distract from the real issues facing this country hasn't distracted me over the last several days, as I've remained hard at work preparing to represent the greatest state in the Union come January. Serving in the 119th Congress will be the honour of a lifetime, and I continue to look forward to getting to know my future colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Each of us was sent here because voters saw something in us that they value. I have loved getting to see those qualities in the future colleagues that I've met, and I look forward to seeing those qualities in every member come January. I hope all of my colleagues will seek to do the same with me. So that's great. Sarah is going to use the bathroom that is according to Sarah's biological sex. At least Sarah can acknowledge that I have to be in the men's bathroom because I am male. But when we have the likes of Zoe, this bill needs to be pushed through in no uncertain terms. It was just a couple of days ago when Sarah released the following though. Here I am using the women's restroom in North Carolina that I'm technically barred from being in. They say I'm a pervert. They say I'm a man dressed as a woman. They say I'm a threat to their children. They say I'm confused. They say I'm dangerous. And they say accepting me as the person I fought my life to be seen as reflects the downfall of a once great nation. I'm just a person. We are all just people trying to pee in peace. So at least on Capitol Hill, this person says that they're going to use the bathroom according to their biological sex. Riley Gaines said, "You know who doesn't have to take a selfie in the women's restroom to prove they are a woman? Women." And on that note, Sarah has the right to have an office in Capitol Hill. Sarah has the right to use the facilities, but Sarah does not have the right to use the women's restrooms, especially when it is banned. And I'm glad Sarah is going to follow the rules. I'm glad Sarah is going to focus on doing the job that Sarah was elected to do, rather than entering into the women's bathroom and taking selfies and saying, look at me, look at me. So let me know what you think. Do you think this is going to continue to be an issue, or is that the end of it? And do you think Sarah should be commended? So thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.